r/AskReddit. How did you get your scar? I have a scar on the bottom of my chin where hair doesn't grow. When I was about 8, I was riding my bike up a large gutter trying to race my mum home. My tire slid out from under me and I rode my chin down the gutter. It was only a foot or so, but my mum was so freaked out because she could see my bone and muscle. I barely remember it. Thank God, it probably hurt like a bee. Snap. Copped a gutter to the chin as a child due to a jump rope mishap. It was so gross that my mum passed out from all of the blood and smacked her head on the doctor's table. It wasn't a good day for us, lol. And unfortunately only a few days before school pictures. It's like one of those phenomena because to me it's like as a kid you always get some disfigurement right before some important visual event. I got a huge cut on my right eyebrow, forehead, which the doctors closed up with purple medical glue, the day before a winter school concert I was performing in. I was 4 years old and fell from an apple tree, like 5 meters high, right onto my face. All my lower teeth came through my lip. It looks epic. I did the same thing on a trampoline. Did a flip to a seated position, but my knees came back and hit me in the face. You can see the scar on both the inside and the outside of my lip where I bit through. It must have been hard for you to eat after that happened. It healed surprisingly fast, and it's not like I chew with my lips. On Christmas Eve, my mom was out doing some Christmas shopping last minute. I forget where my dad was. He was probably doing the same. It was just me and my sister at the house. We had 3 dogs at the time, one of which was a bloodhound. He could be a real big sweetheart, but he could also be very vile and mean. We suspect now that he was abused as a puppy, and I mean this dog was mean. He had just gotten a new Christmas tree stuffed toy, and if he had it with him, you couldn't get within about 30 feet of him. We had to throw cheese slices into his kennel every time we were going to cage him, to distract him long enough so he wouldn't attack us because he hated being in his kennel. Anyways, I wanted to go pet him and give him some attention, as he was laying on the floor doing nothing in particular. Unbeknownst to me, his new stuffed toy was under his front paws. As soon as I began to plop down next to him, he snapped. It was a bit of a surreal experience. He just went right for my leg. He was barking the whole time. I was screaming the whole time. When he stopped, he stopped. I really didn't think much of it. I was still in a bit of shock. All I knew was it hurt, but not enough to raise any alarm. I got up and started walking around, trying to walk it off. After about 2 minutes, the pain wasn't subsiding. I decided to lift up the leg of my pajama pants. He had pierced my leg in 2 spots, and all I remember was seeing the fat of my thighs before the wound pooled up with blood. I called my sister over and we tried to put band-aids on it, being the stupid kids we were, and we called my mom. 3.5 hours in the ER painfully cleaning the wound out with peroxide later, I was stuck with gauze wrap around my leg for 6 weeks and I had to take this revolting chalky white medicine every day. Still, have the scars on my thigh. A man tried to kill me when I was a baby. He killed my father, and when he tried to kill me, my mother sacrificed her life and his attack was weakened by her love, which left only a scar on my forehead. Will you tell Hogwarts they forgot to send my letter? I'll tell McGonagall to look into it. How's Ginny doing these days? I was actively looking for this as soon as I saw the question. My ex-boyfriend's best friend threatened to hit me with a hockey stick during gym class. About a week after my ex broke up with me. I don't think he was actually trying to hurt me, just messing around and being a jerk. He started swinging it at me, and I put out my hands to block, and he ended up hitting one of my fingers and broke it at the joint. Not only was it broken, but it was also cut open and bleeding all over the damn place. I have no fucking idea how the teacher didn't notice. The asshole who broke my finger just went back to his group of friends, and I went up to the teacher and asked her if I could go to the nurse. I didn't know my finger was broken yet, just thought it had gotten cut. She said yes. A friend walked me down to the nurse, and they gave me a band-aid and some ice, and then sent me back to class. Later that day my finger was still hurting, so I went back to the nurse. She gave me more ice and asked if I could move my finger at all. I said a little, but it hurts. She made me a temporary splint out of a piece of cardboard, some gauze, tape, and a pencil. Hooray for American public schools, told me to avoid moving it, and I got sent back to class. I ended up going back to the nurse a few more times that day because I either ran out of ice or just wanted an excuse to get out of class for a bit. I went home, told my parents what happened, and they asked if I could move my finger. I said yeah, but it hurts. They told me it wasn't broken, because if it was then I wouldn't be able to move it at all. So I went to school the next day with this rickety DIY splint and a bottle of Tylenol in my backpack and went along my day. Did the same thing the next day. Finally, after 3 days of my finger still hurting, and now starting to get red and swollen, my parents finally took me to urgent care. They took x-rays, and turns out that my finger was broken. Instead of breaking across the bone like a normal break, it had broken at the joint, going up. So I was prescribed antibiotics for the apparent infection I had going on and got a fancy new splint. Before I left, an asshole doctor comes up to me. I'm 14 years old at this point and 4 feet 9 inches. He lets me know, by the way, this is as tall as you'll ever get. Apparently, he saw in my x-ray that all my bones were done growing. How you could tell that by just a hand, and decided it was so funny that I would be so short my whole life, that he had to crush my dreams of ever getting taller. Thanks a fucking lot, Dr. Asshole. Anyway, after my break healed and the infection went away, I got a tiny scar on my right pointer finger as a trophy. It's at 2 a.m. I'm blind drunk, walking home. Also, I live in Southeast Asia, although I originate from Europe. Somehow I still have a bottle of liquor in my hand. Open containers are legal here, but end up tripping and falling down. I badly wound my hand. But, hey, I'm way past the point where the pain is still a thing. Let's just get a cab home. Long story short, several cabs that I wave at don't stop because of all the blood until one eventually calls an ambulance. Bless that guy. They come, load me in, bandage my hand and drop me off at the hospital. But yo, drunk me doesn't like waiting. Actually, screw waiting. I get out of the ER and walk home, half a km away. Fast forward to the following morning. My flat looks like a crime scene. My hand actually does not hurt that bad, but looks really, really ugly. I get to a hospital and they say, mate, we ain't touching that, way too many tendons and SHT in here, you need surgery. So another ambulance takes me to another hospital where I wait all day, have some radio done to check how much glass, rock and other shit I got in my hand. Spoiler alert, a lot. God bless whoever invented long ass tweezers. Get all that removed and the wire unstitched and dressed. 8 stitches in total. The nurse was looking at me like a bloody Martian. And rightfully so. We actually had some fun because she wasn't taking care of my hand. The intern was. Which gave me the occasion to follow a course about how to properly treat that kind of wound. Fascinating / 10 would hurt me badly again. Oh god. I was wearing Heelys, the shoes with wheels on them, when I went on my mum's friend's, I'll call him H, pontoon boat with my family in 5th grade. H pulled the boat onto a small beach and we ate lunch. Afterward, H pulled the boat out a little bit and I waded up to it, in about 3 inches deep water. I tried to jump 3 straight into the air to land on the outer edge of the boat, but my Heelys messed up my jump and I landed knee first on the edge. The sharp, metal edge. Needless to say, my knee was practically split in 2. I needed 13 stitches to fix it, and I couldn't bend my knee for 2 weeks. It now looks like the Cheshire Cat's smile. I have a Harry Potter scar on my forehead. Although I always tell everyone that I was struck by a Dark Lord of Magics, I actually wrestled with my brother on a couch, being 5-6 years old or something. He shoved me a bit too hard, I stumbled over the armchair, turned around instinctively, to loosen the fall with my hands, and fell headfirst on the edge of a super old, sharp-edged radiator. My head was bleeding crazy after that, and let's say lightning also struck the house and my brain got exposed to super juice, which makes me totally crazy now. Unfortunately, you can't get money with that. The diagonal scar that goes across the top of my left pinky toe. One day many years ago I got out of bed and kicked the lid of a box of toy army men. This was when I was a little kid. I kicked it hard enough to cut it. Fast forward like a week and it's mostly healed, but then I kick the patio screen door in literally the exact same spot at the same angle. Like seriously, the odds of that must be astronomical. Anyway, that pretty much ensured that there would be a scar after 2 cuts right on top of each other. When I was about 5-6, I was riding my bike in my neighborhood. I lost control at a corner and fell off. I didn't realize it until I looked down, but the gear with the pedals and where the chain sits had gotten into my left calf, and ripped a pretty big chunk of skin off. I don't remember much besides yelling for my dad, getting into a bathroom and just cleaning all the blood off. I didn't get stitches, I'd cry. But now I have a scar that looks like an upside down T, or an upside down cross. About the size of 2 indexes crossing each other.